Welcome to another video exploring the relational mysteries. I am so excited to be here with Joan and Tomas Heartfield. Again, they always have such beautiful things to say and share, and how we get to weave it into the astrological mysteries. And we're recording this just a few days before the total solar eclipse in Aries. And there's so much information out there, but one of the things that has been really coming up for me is that the eclipse is happening at 19 degrees and 34 minutes of Aries. And Chiron happens to be at 19 degrees and 34 minutes of Aries. And so it's precise to the minute. And that just those kinds of things just don't happen like that often. And it will be 20 years before we have another eclipse like this. And so we know it's rare. And then, of course, Chiron won't be anywhere in the area of that eclipse. So this is one of those rare moments in time. So if we think of a total solar eclipse opening portals, opening dimensional gateways, opening possibilities, and planting seeds for what we want to go forward with in the future. And Aries being about how we relate to ourselves, the opposite point, Libra, how we relate to others. But really, if we don't have a good relationship with ourselves, then we probably don't have that great of a relationship with others. And Chiron, all about the shamanic healing, how we can tune into what will really support us in having a good relationship with ourselves. How do we heal the wounds that have maybe caused us to feel like we're not good enough, we're not smart enough, we're not doing enough, we're not worthy, or whatever those things are, and then how do we transmute and transform them? So that's kind of setting us up to look at this topic that we're looking into is, to have a really good relationship with the world, with the life, with others. We've got to have a good relationship with ourselves to start. So I'm turning it over to you to take us even further and deeper into this.
Yeah, well, yes, I'll start.
You want to?
Yes, because I love myself so much today because I'm on vacation. And I'm happy to have some conversation with you today, Kaylin, and explore the depth of truth of how things happen because of our relationship with ourselves. The buck does start and stop right here inside me. And we certainly are excited to explore how we can be more conscious and loving to where it all starts and begins.
I think that's really one of the things that because of, and it can be our family of origin that gave us a message about not being good enough. It could be society, because goodness knows society is always saying, oh, buy this, you'll be better, do this, you'll be better, all those things. So it's hard to actually get a bead on really who we are, because we're always being told, how we should be better. So, coming into that place where we're really just being able to look ourselves into the mirror and saying, look, I'm doing the best I can. And I know that, and I know that I'm in integrity with myself, and that I'm really showing up to the best of my ability. And I think that's really where it's at. If we are in integrity with ourselves and showing up to the best of our ability, that's a good place to start.
I love what you're saying, because what it feels like, and this is something that is so important, is that it's not from the outside in. It's like buying things or getting, kudos from people outside of ourselves, acknowledgement and all of that can feel good, but it's not lasting. So unless it's coming from the inside out, unless we really feel good about who we are and are accepting of who we are, sometimes we're going to have our messy moments, and that's okay. But without that, it's like, really, how do we start? By the internal, and having, as you were saying, the integrity with ourselves and all of that. So how do we do that?
Yeah, well, certainly we have to look at the resistance. I mean, I do, because when we look at how we formed let's say, our capacity to appreciate ourselves, appreciation and love they're very close together. And if we haven't had much of that coming towards us, the conundrum is, how do I generate it for myself if I've never had it adequately given to myself? How do I find that deeper sense of purpose inside myself that just feels good to be me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't you?
And so what we're looking for are a place of resonation where energy moves us into a place that feels better. And the Hawaiians have a thing that we have a thing called a body soul in the Hawaiian kahuna tradition. And our relationship to our body in this description says it all, because our body soul basically has an eternal resonance because we are of the earth. And so our bodies are. And so we want to find ways to kind of get inside ourselves and have meaningful conversations that are untainted by the projections that we've been given from a kind of a ineffective society, because this isn't taught very well in our reflection with other in terms of our schooling and our parents and the general environment, of what it takes to love yourself. From a consumerist society, that's kind of a weak broth.
Yeah.
Most people are very affected by their demographic and in their position in terms of their economics and the way their work in the workplace is looked at. There used to be a time when doctors were seen as gods or goddesses, that if you're a doctor, like you're way better than the rest of us and you deserve the best of everything, including more respect.
Yeah. Well, I think that coming right down to, at least for me, how I have learned to love myself over time. And I'm really glad I started a long time ago, because, in these ageless years of my life, if I hadn't started a while ago, it would be very difficult in a certain way. But what I did was I really started to put a lot of love into my body by just touching my body and really saying, I love you and I bless you. And I would just touch my body all over. And that came as a result of a friend of mine. We were in dance together and she hurt her leg. And we used to stand in front of the mirror and go, ew, ew, we're not perfect enough. And she said, I'm never going to say anything bad about my body again, because my legs were perfect and they will never be perfect again, and because of the accident she had. And so that hit me so strongly. And I took that to heart. I said, I'm not going to say anything bad about my body ever again. I'm going to put a lot of love and attention and blessings on my body, because I'm really grateful that I have a strong body, and I want to really appreciate it. So that's one simple way, but it's very effective. And then the other one really is look in the mirror and look into your eyes and really just say, look, am I doing the best I can? And if I am, affirm that. And if I'm not, then I have to give myself a good talking to and go, okay, you really could do this better, but you are doing this better. And I know that you're committed to it. And I know that you're committed. And that kind of energy that we give ourselves of, yes, I am doing the best I can, and I'm committed to being the best person I can, is huge in terms of turning around those self-talk, voices that say other than I'm okay.
I love that you said committed, because the Aries archetypal energy is happiest when it can be committed to a cause it feels is worthy. And so we can imagine that the cause of loving ourselves is a worthy cause. And that everything, when we come from that place, when we're really in a place of healthy self-love, then everything around us changes. It's like that. Was it Wayne Dyer who said, if you want to change what's you see going on around you, then change what's going on within you?
Yep. It's an inside job, as we like to say.
Yes, totally. But we've got to be committed and willing to take that action. And I love what you were saying about touching your body and loving your body. And then I'm sure there's other things we can do to really love our body, like how we feed it and how we take care of it and how we exercise, and are we getting enough sleep, and are we stressing our body out, pushing it too hard?
Mhm.
But what Chiron would say is that sometimes we're wounded and we try to not feel those wounds.
Yeah.
So we numb ourselves with
Yeah.
different, like food or drugs or alcohol or overworking or those kind of things, is to numb the feelings. But this is an opportunity for us to feel what we feel, love ourselves anyway, and turn those wounds into our strength. So having a commitment to do that is so important. So I'm wondering what your thoughts are about that.
Well, we certainly must take steps to keep ourselves in a balance with self and other. And this is such a huge topic. Wherever we drop in, there's gold, because it's all accumulative. Everything we do and do not do for ourselves is going to have a payout in terms of benefit or not. And so to create relationships with self that are alive and vital and interactive, I think that's the tricky thing for many people, is how do I have conscious interaction with myself? Who is really doing the talking? I mean, just sit back and listen to your thoughts for a while, and you'll start to get the lay of the land that there's tones in this self-talk, and there's attitudes, and many people can't love themselves because they don't like themselves. There's many things that take us down into excessive criticism and denial of our gifts, and lack of recognition of what we have inside of us.
Yeah.
It's a very tenuous slope, this self-love experience, because it's a lot of responsibility to show up for ourselves and live a life that's full of the bounty that's around us to have.
Yeah. And I think too is that, the way that we love ourselves is the way we love others. So as we are taking care of ourselves, we are taking care of other. Or as we are communicating, let's say, to ourselves, if our self-talk is more goodness than it is just, sort of like, I'm not good enough kind of thing. If I don't think I'm good enough, I'm not going to think other people are good enough either. It's going to be a projection directly across. So the way, and we teach something called inspired relationship, and this is really one of the tenets of it, is that how I am with myself is how I am with other. And so I really have to look, it's an inside job. We really have to just make sure that we're in a really good relationship with ourselves if we want to have good relationship with other.
I love that. Go ahead.
Yeah. I don't know anybody that has a healthier relationship with himself than you. Just a case in point, Joan just blasted her back. Can I tell a little story?
Yes.
Joan really messed up her back about 3 months ago. Centipede bit her on the foot, getting it out of her outdoor bath. She fell down, cracked her tailbone, went into very big pain episodes, and a couple little fractures in her back, a lot of pain. And in that 3-month period, I got a chance to get more deeply connected to your self-talk. And, in that period of time, I never saw her say one thing to herself that was less than affirmative, that was less than kind, that was less than enthusiastic about what it was going to take to get back on track. Yeah. And even after x-rays and everything that just looks so bad, she's on the mend. And I think you're probably 3/4 repaired from a very bad injury. And I know that part of that is because of the quality of her self-talk.
Yeah. And then just going into that part of my back and really just sending love and healing and going, I know that you're going to be okay. It's just like, I really had to focus, and as commit, that commitment thing to the, whatever it took, to heal it, but also commit to myself to treat myself as kindly as I could and communicate as kindly as I could. And I think that's, that whatever we are doing with ourselves is like, if I'm communicating kindly to myself, then I'm going to communicate kindly to others. And we can just look and see, how are we communicating with others? We can take a look, well, how am I communicating with myself?
There's 2 things that I'm getting here. That love the story. This is awesome. I think there are people who maybe go through an injury or an illness or something happens, and then they start beating themselves up and feeling really bad and that kind of thing. So what a great example that that you could share this story, and hopefully it inspires others to recognize, oh, and maybe I might have a moment where I'm feeling like I'm kind of judging myself a little bit for what just happened, but then come to the awareness that I can shift that. I can be kinder to myself. I can put more love into my body, that kind of thing. And then the other thing is, Tomas, I just love how you said that to Joan, like you reflected back to her how she loves herself. And so that's the gift that others can give us, is that they can reflect that back to us. So we know, and I'm sure you know, Joan, and you don't need that reflection, but man, is that great to get.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we all need, I'm going to speak for myself. I need, but I think, most people that I know, need kindness in their lives. It's like we really do much better. I'm a much better person when I have kind people around me. And kind of like the story that you were telling is like, you don't need to be in a situation where people are unkind to you. It's not healthy for us. So the kinder we are to ourselves, the less we tolerate unkindness around us too, right?
Yeah, so just to kind of fill in a little bit, I was telling Joan and Tomas a story about how I had this experience where I've been learning to stand for myself, and that doesn't mean to be mean to others. It just means that I'm not going to tolerate people being mean to me. And I'm happy to have the conversation and to try to work it out. But if you're going to call me names or tell me how terrible and awful I am, I'm not showing up for that. Like, it does not work for me. And so, so sometimes that's what we need to do, is just walk away, because it's just going to spin in that, not that negative place. So there's that. And then what was the other thing? There was another thing that I was going to say, and I've already forgotten what it was, but all right, well, I'll just turn it over there, and then it might come back to me.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, it certainly comes down, always comes down to our needs, our universal human needs. And I know we've spent a little bit of time on that in the past, but there's no shame in that. These are important scenarios that feed our emotional health. And so when we have a healthy relationship with those two, that vortex between what I need and how that affects how I feel, we can chart a course to get them met.
Yeah. And those needs, of course, are, it's like my responsibility to meet my needs, or to ask for them to be, would you be willing, the wonderful way, would you be willing to? Because, and in that way too, I'm still asking for what I want, and I'm making sure that if that particular person can't or isn't willing to give me that, then I'm still responsible. And so coming down to our own self-responsibility, I think that is just so key. When I really decided to completely take responsibility for everything that happened in my life, my life completely shifted and changed, because I was no longer blaming anybody else for anything. I was like taking 100% responsibility for my life. And boy, does that feel good, because suddenly I'm, it's like there's some people out there aren't, I'm not, it's like I can't change who they are, but I can certainly change who I am. And I can certainly decide to put myself in situations that are healthy. And that's so good for us.
Yeah, if we stay in touch with our needs, it's very magical, because the first thing we notice is we never have to say no. We only have to say yes to what it is we're needing, which is probably different than what you're not wanting to do. And so when you stay in touch with those, your directions stay so clear. It's not so much of what you don't want, it's what you want and need to stay emotionally congruent and healthy with life.
I'm loving this. It's reminding me of Ken Kai's book, The Prescriptions for Happiness. He wrote Handbook to Higher Consciousness also. But he has 3 prescriptions. The first one is to ask for what you want, but don't demand it. So you can put it out there and ask for it. And if the other person can't or won't or doesn't know how or whatever, but you're not demanding. But then you need to come back to yourself and figure out how to give that to yourself. And then the second one is accept what is for now, meaning you might not like it. It might not, you might be feeling judgmental toward yourself or towards somebody else or towards a situation. But if you can just be in that place of acceptance, which is similar to surrender, and then usually that's enough to change the energy. And then the third one is turn up your love even if you don't get what you want.
I like that.
That's
That's
so
yeah.
it's like, oh yeah, like, okay, I'm not getting what I want, but if I can just put more love into the situation, and I can also recognize that if I'm not getting my needs met from something outside of myself, how do I create that from inside of myself? So I love,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
I have another short story for that.
yeah.
You're teaching a workshop in Bel Air, just popped in this memory.
Yeah.
Must have been over 20 years ago in California. And we were teaching a workshop for couples. And some of our personal clients were in this workshop. And this one couple was having a lot of problems. And so we did exercises with each other where we had a chance to give each other tips on what we'd like to see the other do. And this one man was very tuned into this woman that he was with at the time and could see very clearly what the problem was, bless his heart. And she was going off on something. And so he gave her this guidance. He said, I'm just going to say, Mary, wrap your beloved arms around your beloved self and start there, please. Because he was feeling so challenged that he could never give her enough. And she was never satisfied. And so then we had the whole class do that, to wrap your beloved arms around your beloved self. It's kind of weird, but it really drove home the point.
Yeah, and also that's a beautiful time too to tell yourself, to say, and also just to be able to talk to ourselves. I mean, that's part of the self-love and self-acceptance. I remember when I used to talk to myself, like, you Joan, and when I finally shifted, I went, no, you want to say, sweetheart, listen, you could have done that a little better, but I know you did the best you could. So, when we're talking to ourselves with that beloved voice, then also that quality of energy that we're putting into ourselves, because we're seeding the energy always that it's growing in us, right? We're always seeding that energy with the self-talk, with what we're doing, giving ourselves, feeding ourselves, nurturing ourselves within all of that way. So I think that's another huge key is that we really need to treat ourselves as the beloved, and then that energy spills out into our relationships and into our friendships and into our lives.
Yes, love that. Oh my gosh, that's so good. And I will say that I feel like I do live that now in my life and haven't in the past, and was very frustrated and angry with previous partners who was like, I'm trying to do everything I think they want or what they're saying they want, but they're not returning that to me. And probably because I had a lot of negative self-talk. And I just wasn't even able to receive it, even if they were giving it to me, which didn't look like they were in that sense. But sometimes now I'm just find myself in this place of awe and wonder of how much that comes to me. And I don't have to ask. It just comes to me. So I think that once we get it inside ourselves, then the universe will send us more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I love that Chiron is giving us this opportunity with the South Node in Aries being conjunct to open this window or this door so that maybe those people that haven't known how to really start the process of communicating love to themselves, can really start to do that because it is a practice. It doesn't happen overnight. It took me a long time to shift from the way that I was with myself to the way I am now. But practice makes perfect, and the kinder I am with myself, the kinder I am with those around me, and the more life works. And that's simple.
I love that you said that because with this is a North Node eclipse, meaning it's opening up the doors to our destiny. And so if we're healing the wounds of the past so that we're not being held back by them, and we're making the commitment to love ourselves more deeply and more authentically and more genuinely, then we're opening those doors in this time in ways that maybe we haven't even ever imagined was possible before. So very cool. So any last words you want to say before we wrap this up?
Oh, well, certainly it always comes back to um, as we get over ourselves, we want to get into ourselves without shame. That it's no, it's not harmful to perseverate on your value and your needs, to get clear on ones that are not being fed adequately. And that means tracking yourself, having awareness throughout the day, how you're feeling. And this kind of like a sine wave. Sometimes we're feeling really good. Sometimes we're not feeling so good. But to be willing to look at what you're doing in relationship to your self-talk along the way, because life is full of challenges. And when we get in the middle of these challenges, how we talk to ourselves and have confidence in ourselves that we have the capacity to deal with life in a way that does bring us joy. And that's really what we're meant to do.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I do have one more thing, and that is that, there are things that in looking back that, living a human life, most likely we regret. We've done things or said things that have been painful for other people. And so in those ways, I think, it's not that we excuse ourselves for those things, but it's in the integration of them and learning from them. And I love the Hawaiian Ho'opono prayer, that I've used many times when I've, really cleaned and cleared some of my past mistakes, like that mistakes. Take two. And that is, I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you, I love you. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you, I love you. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you, I love you. And just to repeat that over and over again with a focus on whoever it is that maybe you weren't as kind to as you wished you could have been. I think that's also really important, because it's a way of acknowledging where we're off base, and willing to come back on base, and willing to clear the past, and willing to ask and be forgiven, whether the person is alive or not. We put this into the ethers, let's say, because it's important for us to recognize these things.
I love that you brought that up. The Ho'oponopono has been just so in my field and on the field of so many others that I've been talking to lately. And I think it's such a great practice that people can use, walk away with, that kind of thing. So I think I just came across a video too of somebody talking about how to do it. So maybe I'll put that in the show notes so that that gives the people, if they are interested. And I would say this is the time to commit to it, because if we're not forgiving ourselves, we're not forgiving others. And we need to do that, have that self-forgiveness in order to have really healthy self-love. So what a beautiful way to wrap this up. Thank you so much. And also in the show notes will be a way that you can connect with Joan and Tomas. And do you guys have something coming up soon that you're doing?
Right now, we're looking at if we want to do another term of our inspired relationships. We're on the fence right now because we've got so many other things in the hopper right now. We have a heart circle coming up on the 20th, excuse me. And mostly we're just doing private work right now and maintaining what we have.
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. Well, I'll put a link so people can find more about you and whatever you decide you want to do. So you can make sure I have that if there's a special link, or I'll just put a link to your website. And so thank you everyone so much. It's so wonderful that we can come together and have this kind of a conversation and hopefully inspire others to really deepen their relationship to themselves in a healthy way as we're in this remarkable time that's all about that. So
Thank you so much. I do want to also add that we do work quite a bit on Zoom with people around the world. We don't promote it very much, but we're plenty busy on screen. But if people do have any issues with their own self-image, their self-love, their relationship with themselves, we have many modalities that we can work with to bring that up a bit.
Yay. Okay, cool. We'll make sure that that information, people, how they can contact you will be there. So that's awesome. All right. What a great time for us to be exploring these things, and until we meet again.
Thank you, Kaylin,
Excellent.
so much. Aloha for now.